Pope Francis has died.
All right, we're going to bring you some breaking news just coming into us now here in Al Jazeera that Pope Francis, the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church, has died.
Pope Francis, dead, aged 88. Yes, the first Latin American Pope has passed away, and the Catholic Church is reeling as they have had their most diverse and respected religious leader leave the sanctuary and absolutely put the place in disarray. In this video, we're going to look at his death. We're going to look at how it all happened. We're going to look at what the future holds in terms of the funeral process. We're going to have a look at how they select the new pope, how the voting system works around that. And then I'm going to talk about 3 potential candidates at the end of this video who can potentially take over. But first of all, let's have a look at a few of the reports around the breaking news around the world and how everybody's feeling at this time, and then I'll return and start talking about the new process in terms of the future for the next Pope.
Carissimi fratelli e sorelle, con profondo dolore devo annunciare la morte del nostro Santo Padre Francesco.
We begin tonight with the death of Pope Francis, the leader of 1.3 billion Catholics around the world, and a spiritual figure whose humility and tolerance was felt well beyond the Church. Tonight, the Vatican revealing the Pope died of a stroke and heart failure, slipping into a coma just hours after his last appearance from the balcony in St. Peter's Square to celebrate Easter Sunday. During his 12 years as pontiff, Pope Francis proved himself to be the people's pope, reaching out to the poor, the forgotten, the people at the margins. From the moment the former cardinal from Argentina was introduced as Pope Francis, he set the Church on a new course. The first pope from Latin America, the first Jesuit, the first to elevate women to positions of church authority, the first to allow priests to bless same-sex couples, asking early on as a pope, "Who am I to judge?" And another first, Pope Francis agreeing to the first ever town hall with American television. Tonight, that moment, we waited at the door inside Vatican walls and then our walk right there across the courtyard with Pope Francis. Millions would watch as the Pope took questions from Americans back here in the U.S. But it has been a remarkable 24 hours. The Pope, who had been in failing health, his battle with pneumonia, in the hospital and then out, and then appearing on Easter Sunday. There was so much hope he was getting better. But then the world learning he died just hours later. Tonight here, the Pope's will now revealed, his final wishes. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman at the Vatican tonight, leading us off.
Francis kept people at the heart of his papacy, and tonight thousands flocked to the Vatican to remember him and his message of humility. His sudden death a shock, just hours after greeting the faithful for Easter. Tonight, the Vatican says the 88-year-old suffered a cerebral stroke, fell into a coma and had irreversible heart failure. He died at 7:35 this morning. The first Latin American pope dying at the holiest time of the year for Catholics.
Fairly subdued atmosphere here on the square. I mean, yesterday there were thousands of people here, all cheering on Pope Francis. Look, people knew he was sick, but I think they hoped that he was getting better, and now he's gone. I think it's just shock.
This was the extraordinary scene on Easter Sunday in St. Peter's Square. Francis greeting thousands from the Pope-mobile, appearing frail but waving, blessing children in the crowd. That appearance came shortly after the traditional Easter Sunday Mass, where crowds heard what would be the Pope's final message and received his last blessing.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
His voice just a whisper, wishing the crowd a happy Easter, his last message to the world, the same one he spent his life preaching: unity, service and compassion for society's most vulnerable. Pope Francis spent weeks in the hospital battling pneumonia in both lungs, suffering 2 emergencies that nearly killed him. But seeming to recover, he even made some appearances.
Hello. So good to see you.
Seen here with Vice President Vance on Easter Sunday, one of his last meetings with a world leader.
I know you've not been feeling great, but it's good to see you in better health.
Today, the Vice President reflected on that meeting, writing, "I was happy to see him yesterday, though he was obviously very ill. May God rest his soul." President Trump at the White House today.
He's a very good man who loved the world. and he especially loved people that were having a hard time, and that's good with me.
Former President Obama and First Lady Michelle, who met with the Pope at the White House in 2015, issued a joint statement saying Pope Francis was the rare leader who made us want to be better people. Tonight, cardinals are travelling to the Vatican from around the world, sealing off the official papal apartment, part of a centuries-old tradition, preparing for the Pope's funeral. And tonight, we've learned Pope Francis' final wishes, the Vatican releasing his will late today, saying he wanted to be buried at St. Mary Major Basilica. Francis saying the tomb must be in the earth, simple, without particular decoration, and with the only inscription, Francisco.
What an amazing man. Obviously, clearly he was humility. He was about the people that were struggling. And it's sad to see the demise of the great man, Pope Francis. So, as the Catholic Church now prepares to move on, they need to go through their sacred rituals to elect a new Pope. Let's look deeply into sympathizing with this process of the symbolics of the old traditions with the spiritual awakening. So, let's have a look at the steps. So there's 4 steps. Step 1, the funeral. So after the Pope has died, there is a 9-day mourning at the Vatican. So they mourn for 9 days, called the November Dies. I'm saying it wrong, but so during this time, daily mass is happening, offered for the repose of the Pope's soul. His body is placed in a simple wood coffin to symbolic humility. What is actually in this coffin? There'll be a silk veil placed over his face, coins minted during his papacy, and a sealed document called a regito, which will symbolize his life. But he obviously wanted a simple tomb that only had his name on it. Well, not just his one name on it, long name. That's all he wanted on his tomb. So he's a very simple Pope, and that's how that one works. So they go through the funeral process. Then second, after the 9 days, the burial, all that happens, then you go into step 2, which is the conclaves. So the College of Cardinals gather for what is known as a conclave, which is, it's known for that because it's privacy and secrecy. So only those people know what's happening in that area, nobody else, not even family and friends. So only cardinals under the age of 80 are permitted and eligible to vote. So anyone over 80 cannot become the next Pope. You have to be under that age. So around 120 cardinals are allowed to vote and gather in the Sistine Chapel. So, which is at the Vatican. The next step is before the voting begins, each cardinal takes a solemn oath to maintain absolute secrecy and to follow the divine guidance. So yes, now we move on to the third step, and that's the voting itself for the new Pope. So voting begins with prayer of the Holy Spirit. Each cardinal writes his choice on a folded paper ballot, then walks to the altar, places his vote, and then he swears, "I call my witnesses, Christ the Lord, who will be my judge." So to be elected Pope, you need to get 2/3 of the majority, so basically 66% roughly of the vote. So if you get 66% of the vote, you are the next Pope. So the ballots are burned in a special ceremony stove. If no Pope is elected, chemicals are added to make it a black smoke. And then when the Pope is selected, then it's a white smoke. The bells ring around the Vatican, and joy begins to happen. The final step is announcement and acceptance. So the chosen cardinal can say no, but most of the time they say yes, because that's what they are there for. They ask, do you accept your election? And if he accepts, he chooses his papal name. So So generally they go with one of their first or last names, whatever they want it to be generally, and away we go from there. So that's pretty much how that all rock and rolls. And then soon after that, the senior cardinals step out to the balcony at St. Peter's Basilica and proclaim the famous words, Habenas Popon! We have a new Pope. Yes, the new Pope then appears to the crowd and gives his first blessing to the Vatican City and to the world. So this is the first time you see the actual new Pope. So you don't actually know who the Pope is till he walks out. Whether that changes with social media these days, we'll see. So now we understand who is now we understand the process. Who is likely to be the Pope Francis' successor? Well, I've tried to narrow it down to 3. It might be too hard to narrow it down to 3, but I'm taking the risk of doing. First of all, we're talking about the Asian Francis first off. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. So Cardinal Tagle was known for his humility, pastoral sentimentality, and his commitment to the marginalized. So if they want to continue down the same sort of process as Pope Francis, he would be the ideal candidate on that side of the fence. Number 2, and a big talking point, this guy might be it, the Cardinal Pietro Parolin from Italy, serving the Vatican as Secretary of State Cardinal. He brings a lot of diplomatic experience and also the figure of continuity to the actual Pope right now. So there is talks that he would be a similar unification of the current choice. But now we're looking a bit more left-wing and going back to the future, going back to the past, I should say, is Cardinal Serra, Robert Serra. He a prominent conservative in the company, and he has an emphasis on traditional liturgy and moral teachings. His leadership could appeal to the masses that want to go back to how the old system was. So that's going to be the question mark over the popes right now. Do they want to go back to the old traditions, or they continue down this path of being more of unified, more with peace with everybody in the world? That is question mark on what's going to happen here into the future. But anyway, that's a bit about the Pope, a bit about what happens in the future in terms of how it's all elected. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you like this. And we have plenty more videos like this for you on this channel. I have all breaking news from different parts of society, just whatever's happening in the moment. I talk about it and I give it to you. But rest in peace, the late Pope Francis, and have an awesome day out there.